Prepping mistakes can cost you more than just supplies, they can cost you your life. Even experienced preppers fall into common traps that can undermine all their efforts. In this video, we're breaking down the biggest mistakes preppers make and how you can avoid them so you're better prepared when it matters most. Let's get started. Too many preppers fall into the trap of thinking that buying the latest gear makes them prepared. The reality is, gear without the right skills is just expensive dead weight. Some people have top-of-the-line water filters, but no idea how to actually find water in the wild. Others have tactical gear that looks impressive, but have never trained in self-defense. Owning a fancy fire starter is great, but if you've never practiced building a fire in tough conditions, it's not going to help you when you really need it. Consider focusing on learning the basics. Gear should support your skills, not replace them. Skills like fire starting, navigation without GPS, first aid, foraging, and self-defense are crucial. When the time comes, it's not about what's in your bag that'll save you, it's what's in your head. One of the biggest mistakes preppers make is assuming their gear and supplies will work perfectly when they need them. Just because something is packed away doesn't mean it's ready for an emergency. A common issue is food stockpiles that have long since expired because they were never rotated. Some store water without realizing that it can go bad if not treated and maintained properly. Gear like flashlights with dead batteries or bug-out bags filled with equipment that's never been tested are frequent pitfalls. Imagine reaching for your emergency radio only to find out that it doesn't work, or trying to cook with a stove you've never actually used. What works better is making testing and rotation part of your routine. Regularly check and rotate your food and water to keep them fresh. Test your gear in real conditions, not just once, but on a regular basis. Practice using your bug-out bag by taking short trips or running drills. The goal is to ensure that when you need your supplies, they're not just there, they're reliable. Survival isn't just about having the right supplies, it's about having the physical and mental capacity to handle extreme situations. A lot of preppers focus on stockpiling gear, but neglect their own health and mindset, which are just as critical. It's not uncommon to see people with fully loaded bug-out bags who can't carry them more than a mile because they're out of shape. Others might have detailed emergency plans, but freeze up in high-stress situations because they've never mentally prepared for the reality of a crisis. Prepping involves being able to physically and mentally endure the demands that come with an emergency. A helpful approach is to incorporate basic fitness into your routine. This doesn't mean that you have to be an elite athlete, but maintaining a level of strength, endurance, and mobility can make a huge difference. Just as important is mental preparedness. Practice stress management techniques, run realistic drills, and expose yourself to controlled situations that will push your limits. The combination of physical and mental resilience is what will keep you steady when everything else is falling apart. Water is one of the most critical resources for survival, yet many preppers underestimate just how vulnerable their water supply can be during an emergency. People often assume they'll always have access to clean water, but in a crisis, that assumption can be deadly. A common mistake is storing only a minimal amount of water, thinking it'll be enough without considering how quickly it can run out. The general guideline is to store at least 1 gallon of water per person per day just for drinking. This doesn't include additional water needed for cooking, hygiene, or cleaning, which can quickly add up. Others rely on a single water purification method, not realizing that filters can break or chemicals can expire. Some never identify alternative water sources near their home or bug-out location, leaving them scrambling when the primary supply runs dry. The key takeaway is to approach water preparedness with redundancy in mind. Store enough water to cover your immediate needs, but also have multiple methods for purification, like filters, boiling techniques, and chemical treatments. Learn how to locate natural water sources in your area and understand how to make even questionable water safe to drink. Water is non-negotiable in survival. Treat it as the priority it is. A common mistake in prepping is having a rigid plan that doesn't account for the unpredictable nature of real emergencies. Disasters rarely unfold the way we expect, and sticking to a single plan without flexibility can put you at serious risk. Some people assume they'll always be able to bug out without considering scenarios where staying put or bugging in is actually the safer option. Others might have detailed evacuation routes mapped out, but no backup if that route becomes impassable. Rigid thinking can lead to panic when the plans fall apart because there's no room for adaptation. The key is to build flexibility in your preparedness. Develop multiple plans for different scenarios: bugging in, bugging out, short-term disruptions, and long-term crises. Have alternative routes, backup locations, and contingency plans in place. Regularly review and adjust these plans as circumstances change, whether it's new hazards in your area or changes in your personal situation. The ability to adapt is just as important as the plan itself. Many preppers fall into the lone wolf mindset, believing they can handle any situation entirely on their own. While self-reliance is a key part of preparedness, completely isolating yourself can be a major mistake, especially when it comes to security and long-term survival. It's common to see people who focus heavily on stockpiling supplies and securing their homes, but neglect to build relationships with like-minded individuals. In a real crisis, having a trusted network can mean the difference between thriving and struggling. Whether it's sharing resources, exchanging skills, or providing security support, a community offers advantages that are hard to achieve alone. Consider investing in building a prepper network. This doesn't mean broadcasting your plans to everyone, but connecting with people you trust: family, friends, neighbors, or local preparedness groups. Establish clear communication plans, practice group drills if possible, and discuss how you'd support each other during different types of emergencies. Strong communities are harder to break, and in a crisis, security comes from numbers, coordination, and mutual trust. Prepping isn't just about surviving natural disasters or societal collapse. It's also about being ready for personal financial crises. Many preppers overlook this aspect, focusing solely on physical supplies while ignoring the economic threats that can hit just as hard as any natural disaster. It's not unusual to find people without an emergency fund, leaving them vulnerable to job loss, unexpected medical expenses, or sudden economic downturns. Others rely entirely on electronic banking without considering the importance of having cash on hand for situations where ATMs or card systems might be down. Ignoring debt can also be a hidden risk, as it limits financial flexibility when things go wrong. A better approach is to integrate financial preparedness into your overall plan. Build an emergency fund that covers at least a month of essential expenses. Keep some cash readily accessible in small denominations for quick use during power outages or grid down scenarios. Diversify your assets if possible, including some tangible items that could be useful for barter in extreme situations. Reduce debt to increase your financial stability and freedom of action during tough times. Preparedness isn't just about surviving the big dramatic events. It's about weathering the everyday crises that can derail your life just as quickly. Preparation is all about staying ahead of the unexpected. Avoiding these mistakes will help you build a stronger, more reliable plan. If you've seen or made any other prepping mistakes that I didn't cover, drop them in the comments so we can all learn from each other. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Join the Texan Prepper community by hitting that subscribe button. Keep an eye out every week for another video on emergency preparedness. Stay safe, keep prepping, and I'll see you on the next one.